Hello. Let's play some music, right? We are back here for Pinky's Powerhouse Podcast. Are you ready for the drum roll?
Yay.
Come on, you got to get jazzed for this. Because doesn't that just make you feel like I'm pumped? I'm ready to talk, right? Okay, welcome. Here we go. Okay, welcome to Pinky's Powerhouse Podcast. Now, my name is Tanya, aka Pinky. I'm here with Ishqa from the Canna Boss Babes, and we are going to dive in and see how. Let me start over here. Yep. I lost. Close that tab again. Dang it. There we go. Sorry. One moment, please. There we go. Howdy, welcome to Pinky's Powerhouse Productions Podcast. My name is Tanya, aka Pinky. When life kicks you in the gut or slaps you in the face, how do you get back up? What motivates you or inspires you to find the passion and energy to fight and be heard? Taking back their life and showing others how to inspire and reclaim their power. Let's dive in, right? This week's guest, we have Ishqa from Canna Boss Babes. She is phenomenal. She's a podcaster and she's also an influencer and she's a role model. So let's dive in. Thank you, Ishqa.
Thank you so much, Pinky. I'm excited to be here. Excited to be able to share what a little bit that I've learned,
Thank you for being here. All right. So I know you've been at this for like 30 years. So I know you have lots of stories, right? Oh, come on.
Not quite 30 years. It's been a little over 5 now.
Okay,
but yeah, it feels like 30 in the cannabis industry for sure.
To bring it to your next level of.
I did, yeah. Like I have a varied professional past. I've done a lot of different things. And what I found myself being really good at is helping companies grow. I am just as nerdy and technical as I am creative. So it's lent itself to me wearing a lot of different hats within companies, that of IT manager and CFO and administrative and building customer service teams and head of HR and director of corporate services and a lot of different areas. And so for me, it's always kind of been about people and creating a great human experience. People focus on the customer experience, but I like the employee experience too. So all of it, like the human experience of building a company sustainably, but with people in mind. And so, and really the legacy work that you create when you create a company like that. So
you create something and then somehow you end up making an umbrella and you can end up creating that and making different avenues under your one umbrella.
That's how my brain works, actually. So what I found, I loved the jobs that I had. I've had a lot of really great jobs where I learned a lot of different skills. And again, from large corporations like American Honda Motor Company to smaller startups, or it'd be hard to even call them startups. They'd been around for a while doing like security management in buildings and like schools and big things. And so there's so many different interesting industries and ways of doing things. I learned how to read government contracts and RFPs. And like I actually volunteered back when I had this job to go through those 300-page RFPs, and like I'd go through and note, here's for engineering, here's for sales, here the owner needs to know this. Oh, I need to know this because now we need certified payroll. So then learning how to do certified payroll. And I just, I've always loved learning. And so I think it's helped me to learn a lot of things.
Plus, it's
that I now get to apply and help people.
Learn the tools. Then I know having experts, pay somebody, but it's a more rewarding when you learn it yourself and you do it yourself. And because if you're going to be seeing it more and more, you might as well learn how to do it yourself.
I mean, I think that it's important for every entrepreneur to learn enough about the varied aspects of their business to at least be able to know whether or not the people they hire are doing a good job. Like,
Yes.
one thing that I've seen a lot in this space is people who are new to cannabis but not new to business, right? A lot of the time, the tendency there is to hire consultants and other people to help you with your business, because you don't know that area. And sometimes I've seen that trust, we've all seen in this industry that trust go too far and things get mismanaged, and then your money is gone, and that's hard to come back for a lot of people.
Take a big hit. Yes.
Yeah.
So that would actually be one of those things that when life kicks you in the gut, somebody's taking your money. Now, what do you do? How do you keep it going?
Well, I mean, hopefully find people that you actually can trust and that
Of
will be
course.
able to, help you through that and but um, it's a dicey industry. It's a dicey industry for a lot of reasons. The regulations, I don't think anybody was counting on. So those early investors a lot of them have been pulling out. We know a lot of the companies are going into receivership, or have gone or have even just disappeared, right? Like, I have a bag of lanyards. Every lanyard I've ever gotten in the last 6 years, there's a lot of those companies not around anymore, sadly. Or they've even left state. Like, a lot of people have even just pulled out of California market, and are focusing on other states like New York and New Mexico. So it's interesting. I think that, it's not an industry like any others. Without funding, without the ability to market in the same way. I mean, we're not safe on social media either, right? It's a heavily regulated product. And even what's happening with CBD and hemp all over the country with regulations being rolled back in different states, it's it's not pretty right
It can be difficult because
now.
because the cannabis is so new, even though it's still been around. Even Colorado was it our main that we were trying to,
Mhm.
because they had it going on for years before any other state made it legalized. So it's still a
Well,
difficult situation for making those guidelines. And I mean, even to this day, there's still no bank of cannabis. So
no,
and
no,
it's
there's
still,
not. There's a few banks that'll handle certain companies under very,
strict
very
guidelines, I'm sure.
strict. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. But it's been 29 years since cannabis was made legal medically in California. Next year
So
will be
that's
the
still not
30th.
even very much, right? I mean, that's within my lifetime because I'm 55.
Right. Yeah, no, I mean, I'm 47. I was, pretty much lining up to smoke that year too. Um
Tell us about your past.
um
Tell us your stories.
oh,
How did it all begin? How did we see Ishqa come to fruition?
um that's such a funny question. I feel like I've had like 50 lives within this one. I feel like we
Exactly.
have many different lifetimes within one lifetime. We're different versions of ourselves and things. But as a kid, I don't know, it was rough. Definitely did not have the easiest upbringing. I ended up on the streets and in juvenile halls and group homes. Between the ages of 12 and 15, up in the Bay Area, which was Oakland was not fun, but the Greyhound was safe-ish.
Yeah, but did you say you were like
Um,
on benches and stuff too? So like sometimes your
I
father would send
did.
you,
Oh, yeah, no,
would send you off.
so my dad lived up in Oakland and my mom lived in Santa Cruz, and so
So you back
I
and forth.
learned to take, well, basically the first time that I was left alone, my dad gave me a roll of quarters and a bus ticket back up to Oakland and dropped me off in Santa Cruz. And he said, "Come home when you run out of money." And I learned how to panhandle and came home 5 days later because I started my period, actually. At that point, I didn't know how to do that on the streets. But yeah, I would sleep on the park benches down in Santa Cruz at the downtown, and Greyhound Station up in Oakland was the safest because the lights were always on. It's funny, I actually had a conversation with someone else in the industry recently who I won't name because that's her story to share. But
Exactly.
when I told her, like, oh, the Greyhound Station, she goes, because the lights are always on. I was like, oh my God, someone gets it. Like, it's like, yeah, that's why. And so, yeah, juvenile hall was the first place I felt safe, which is weird and
Weird,
wild,
yeah.
but it lets you know what kind of chaos I was coming from. And, you know, I was fortunate enough to get into a group home at 15, almost 16. And I spent 2.5 years there, wonderful years with a couple that had fostered before they turned into a group home, and whose names were Pat and Jean. And they said the first day their names are Pat and Jean, but the girls call us mom and dad. And I couldn't remember which one was Pat and which one was Jean. So mom and dad they became. But yeah, little town Gridley up in Northern California. And I made a lot of really great friendships and had some good conversations with some of my high school friends just this week. So blessed to have had that. Lived on my own my senior year of high school. Then I ended up coming down to Southern California, which I think I had always dreamt about as a kid. I was definitely more of a city girl than a country girl. And so, yeah, I've been in Southern California for almost 30 years now.
I love California.
Actually, for as long as medical cannabis has been legalized, I moved down here in 1996. So,
So tell me your process though, the things that you learned, obviously being on the streets that made you strong. You're like, okay, I'm not going to sit and let somebody give it to me. I'm going to go out and figure it out and I'm going to get it done.
oh
So
no, no, that was not it. That was not it. Not for a very long time.
it took you,
You know, the thing is when you grow up in an environment where people are not healthy, you don't get told positive things about you, so you know those things. So for the longest time I was just in survival mode, and that's actually what cannabis helped me with in my mid 30s. So for decades I carried around survival mode, as most of us do when we're unaware of our trauma. If we like grew up so early where we that's all we knew, then you don't know any other way of being. My trauma caught up with me. My trauma caught up with me in my mid 30s when I was um, like 80 pounds more than I am now. Like my
you know,
body
the
felt
bubble
like it was
story.
falling apart. I was constantly injured. I was always overstressed. There would be times I'd pick up my daughter from school and 3 times ask her if she had any homework. My eye would be twitching all the time. I was kicking ass at work because I was wearing all the hats because I said yes to everything and I cared about everything and wanted to help everything. So I was doing everything. Um, and I was extremely burnt out. And the only energy that I had was to go to work and take my daughter to school. And then after that, I would just like come home and like melt and do what I think most people do, which is like, right, throw on the TV and think that that's just normal. And so I had social anxiety really bad. It got to the point where I couldn't, I lost a lot of friends because they didn't understand why I couldn't come to their baby showers or birthday parties or things like that, for 4 years. And so during that time, though, was some of my biggest healing. And that's when I started using cannabis. It was the smallest little amount at night. A few weeks after smoking, just like a half a bowl from a pipe the size of my thumb, like I'd smoke half a bowl of that tiny little thing lasted me 2 nights. And because I didn't need a lot, like one hit, and I was just like, oh, okay,
It relieves your anxiety
now
for
maybe
sure.
I can. Well, it did, and I didn't realize it quite the extent of it. Like I knew it helped me feel better, and I used it because I wanted to be able to sleep better. And but after a couple of weeks of that, I exhaled really deeply, and it made me giggle and laugh because I thought, oh, it's not just a movie, and thought that was funny. And then I realized in the midst, the giggles turned into kind of sobs because the realization that, oh, I've not exhaled before. Like I've been holding around all this tension. And, it's so funny because I had so many people talk to me about breathing practices, and I would like try them. But then I'd like, I there was always a resistance. There was always there was always something like, I don't have time for this. This seems dumb. And I'd like quit it early or something else. Or I'd think I'd breathe. I like same thing with yoga. I would go and do a yoga flow and I did yoga. But when I started doing yin yoga and you're actually in each pose a little bit longer and like sinking into your body, the exhale became so important, not only for the pose and for really relaxing your muscles into the pose and into the alignment that the pose is meant to create, but also for really releasing a lot of the trauma that I had carried around in my body because of a lot of the abuse that I suffered as a kid. So I was abused in every way by my family by the time I was 5 years old. And I was abused until I left the home. Right. So that's a lot of years of abuse that I didn't know any different because that's all I had known since I was two.
It's a lot of healing. It's a
But
lot of
but
healing.
like there was a yeah, so the yin yoga was just like a different experience and learning to slow down. I'm a very quick bitch. I will be from here to there in no time
My
flat and
head
like
is
millions of
fireworks all
ideas
the
and
time.
everything.
Yes.
Yeah. So when I smoke, people ask me, well, like, do you smoke indica when you work? And I'm like, yes, because it helps me hyper focus. Like, there probably is some ADHD in there, but I also know that CPTSD also creates a lot of similar things that ADHD people exhibit as well. So there's just cannabis has become something that was already such a tool in small doses, and then I had a really good delivery guy. I still do. I love you, Cliff. Um, he really took the time to teach me and let me smell and learn about what works better with my body, and also taught me about regulation. He was the first one to start teaching me how to look at the real regulations and not just vote yes because it says cannabis. So, really appreciated that. Had no idea or never even thought of going into the industry. That definitely was a happy accident the end of 2019. I quit my job. I had had enough. Um, I loved that place. I loved what I built. I love the people, but the universe definitely was putting things into play that was screaming it's time to go and do something else. And it had been for 2 years, but I was still healing and figuring out what I think I was made of too, even within that.
So
And
tell us, how
so
did Cannabis Babes? How did that happen? Tell us the story.
Yeah. So, I mean, Canna Boss Babes really started. So first of all, everything happened really quickly. So 7/10/2019 was the day I resigned from my job. I had no idea what day that was or how significant or anything. 11 days later, I learn about endocannabinoid system for the first time. I get visuals and I'm just like obsessed with learning everything because everyone deserves to know the truth. And so I go through that whole like awakening experience. And I also met a lot of really cool people who I started following online and who I come over and let's sesh and what do you do? And there are different entrepreneurs or have different ideas for business. I was like, well, that's what I do. So
We
like
all need a
here,
think
there's
tank.
this
Yeah.
idea and that idea, and like here's how you do that and set that up properly. And so, but then also realizing that they didn't know each other. And so while I was the new girl,
You
they
connect
didn't
them.
know each other. So I was able to be like, oh, well, you need you and you and you and you and you and let's just bring everyone together. And simultaneously, I met some amazing men in the industry because there are good men out there. And so that was also just a part of like a really healing thing as well, to be able to, as a single mother raised by a single mother, um, meet some really good men. And that's one thing this industry has really brought to me as well. Not all of them, but a lot of them. So that's been another healing part. But a really wonderful man out of mine introduced me to my brother from another mother, Rico Lamite. And I started helping him produce his regular events, which he was doing big industry panel discussions once a month in Orange County and LA with Canna Gather, and then also doing CBD Sundays in both locations. And then I brought one here to Long Beach, and then we did a couple other events. And yeah, and the Canna Boss Babes got birth kind of at the beginning of that.
You're already
Um,
doing
at,
it, so you just put a name to it.
well, No, it really happened like honestly, the first event I did with Rico was 5 days after we came up with a name. And the name was a response to there was a mean girl group going around threatening the different women that I had been talking to. And so I was hearing it over and over again. And one day I was sitting in the backyard with Breezy and our friend Lisa's, and Breezy Puffs was being bullied and threatened to have her page taken down by these mean girls if she didn't unfollow someone. And I just thought that was the weirdest shit because at that point I was like, I'm 42, my daughter's 18 and doesn't even do this. This is weird. We're Canna Boss Babes. We don't have time for this. I was like, you know what? And it's happening to too many people. So if they're not going to be safe, then we'll just create a safe space. And I went on to Instagram and saw the Canna Boss Babes was available, and that's how it
It
got
was birthed from
started.
there.
Yeah.
See, creative ideas, powerful creative ideas.
Well, and it was so funny because when I had that first event 5 days later, I met so many people and I told them, oh, the Canna Boss Babes, because that was the new brand, right? And they were like, oh, I've heard of that. I've heard of that. So, like, just from the beginning, people really resonated with the name. And the name for me itself breaks stigma, right? People think lazy stoner, but like, no, I'm high and I'm a boss babe. I get a lot of shit done.
Exactly. It was kind of like Wake and Bake
So,
is the favorite. If you're smoking
yeah,
and you have a cup of coffee,
right.
nothing's going to stop you. You're read down to get your business done.
Right, right. Yeah, no, I mean, yeah, right. I've got this and my coffee right here. So
See,
I exactly.
it's
Um
motivation to make goodness.
yeah. So yeah, so that's really what it became about, was to be a space where we can support other people. And so the Canna Boss Babe, I've got a couple rules. Rule number one is the Canna Boss Babe always handles their own business first. That's two part. That is one for us as women to know, or as men or babes too, whoever it is, right? To take care of ourselves first. It's the whole idea behind putting your oxygen mask on yourself and then helping others, right? Or serving from a full cup. And so to do that, and then also to acknowledge for the other side of that is that looks different for everybody, right? Like there's times I need to still retreat and not talk to people for like a week. Like it happens, and I need the people in my life to be okay with that. And so that was really kind of the response of making sure that we still maintain our autonomy. We can be a group and we support each other, but from the beginning, the Canna Boss Babes is not about me and about who I hang out with. It's about you. It's about every single person out there that uses cannabis to grow something and build something in this life.
Well, hopefully, whatever you do, you're doing something good, and then you hopefully, like in return, you're creating a charity or donating back, or which is what you said that basically Cannabis Babes has led to. You have more things under that umbrella.
Oh, well, I have something that I also helped build simultaneously, and that
Yes.
was what I thought I would do. So the plan was never to go into the cannabis industry, right? The plan was to help other businesses grow and do my business consulting. And then work in juvenile halls. I thought I would go back and work with young people who, like me, were not taught the certain things that actually make a big difference in how successful you are in life and how you approach
Tools and education
even
are
life.
important.
And so, but what cannabis brought to light was there's so much work to be done here. And so that is, through expungements, which I've been fortunate enough to work with the Social Impact Center and Felicia Carbajal on. That is working with This Is Jane project and being able to make sure that there's accessible, compassionate cannabis. And then also through my own nonprofit. And so the original idea that I had in 2017 was after growing my company very quickly and have hired a lot of young people who were buying cars for the first time and getting apartments for the first time and doing like adulting things, including picking out their own health insurance and not even having any idea how to go about doing that. And so it was funny to me because I felt like, well, I knew I had gaps growing up because I was on the street. So like nobody taught me that stuff. But here's people who's like come from good homes and their families are still together and they don't know those things either. And so I had this idea of, well, there's a lot of people out there that don't know the tools they need to really thrive in this life. And so I was like, okay, how to do adulting. And it came from my friend Allie, who came to my house one afternoon, and she's like, oh, I need a class in adulting. and so, and so I just came up with, this is what cannabis was helping me do at this point. Was stage one of me using cannabis and healing was the learning to differentiate the difference between people in survival mode and thriving. The first thought was, when you're in survival mode, failure is not an option. But then if you read any books or anything about anyone successful, their belief is there is no success without failure. So how do you become the 1%? You tell everyone else, don't even try, because failure is not an option, right? So like just learning, doing that first, but then realizing what are also those other tools of success. And it's knowing about money and how it works. It's knowing about real estate and how it works. It's being able to know how to get yourself transportation. It's being able to know how to get yourself in a home, so there's like some basic core things that people need to learn how to do. But then also, there's layers to it, right? And so to be able to have, my vision was a community center. So Long Beach Peer Education Community Center. And we don't have a center yet, but we've done a lot of work online and in other ways to serve our community since. But the original idea was to do these different how to do adulting classes, have them led by different community leaders and people in the community who then can be the experts that, when a specific situation comes up, now you've built that relationship with someone in the community, and can trust to help you with that specific situation. But otherwise, it's also there to teach general. The other part of that that's always been important to me is, I think one of the best ways you can empower people is to give them an opportunity to teach. And so I've also said that it would be a place that you can come and learn how to make tamales, or I used to say Christmas shop at the 99-cent store, which when I was younger, I would have been great at teaching that class. Now that store is no longer, so I'm dating myself. But that really, it can be anything. It's how to cook for one, or how to do makeup or lashes, or whatever it is you want to teach and that the community wants to come together and learn. It's really about building that community and then being able to identify those experts and provide resources for people.
See the power
so that
of
way it can help
ideas
them.
and drive. You created this Long Beach PEC, right? So
yeah, Peer Education Community Center. So, when I first left my job, I figured I would start my career, do my work for 5 years, and then probably start up the nonprofit. I ended up meeting, so Pam Chadaswati, she's the administrator for the LBCA. And that's where I went and learned endocannabinoid system the first time. And that night I was like, are you the woman? I was like, I feel like you're the woman behind all this. I was like, is it you? And she goes, yeah. And I was like, I have to hug you. And she's like, okay. And then we became best friends. So, and started this nonprofit together. So the first time we hung out and we seshed, I told her what I was here to do. Like, I wasn't even like looking to go into the cannabis industry specifically yet. I just wanted to volunteer and be able to know how I can help. And so we had the conversation of, what are you here doing? And I was like, I'm business coaching and consulting, and going to go work in juvenile halls and help here if I can. Right. And I have this idea for a nonprofit eventually. She goes, wait, we need this now. She says, it's not just youth that need this. There's elderly that need this. And her background is working with the elderly, and and she was right. And so she really brought to my attention that this knowledge, these basic resources that, some people have and a lot of people don't, are needed everywhere. And so she convinced me to start a nonprofit right away. We brought in our friend Angela and did that. And so I've actually had a nonprofit for the last 6 years as well. We've been a 501c3 for 4 now. And it's beautiful. While we don't have the classes as I originally thought we would, what happened instead was, when the pandemic occurred, our local neighborhood association reached out to Pam, and they started feeding the houseless. And so, we've been having that program now for 3 years now, Project Dignity. So that is a weekly set up with some other local organizations where we get to, provide clothing and food and different resources to our houseless. And then, and also have helped them, like Pam ended up becoming a part of the Long Beach, homeless committee last year. I hate saying homeless, but that's the official name for it.
Unhoused, right?
And and so anyone at home, if you don't understand the difference, they are home. A lot of people who end up out on the street stay in their neighborhoods. This is their home. This is their home. They just don't have a house there anymore. So that's why it's different. And so really the focus has been more on that, and then also on harm reduction. And then Pam and Angela both lost a lot of people during the pandemic, and became certified as death doulas. And so now also do a lot of help for people with grief work, and just a lot of really beautiful community classes and things, just
I think
bringing
that's
people
tougher than it
together
hurts,
in
honestly.
groups.
Trying to help people reach the other side that are leaving.
I mean, and practically, right? Like not just in a woo woo, how's your feelings kind of a way, but also as far as like estate planning, right? While you still can, so that way your family knows what it is you want, and then you're there to help make sure and advocate that that is what gets
Or
done,
whatever
rather
their life
than the
choices are.
emotions of the family and everything that comes up at the end, right? Like, and then you haven't made a plan, so then they're all trying to do what they think is best, and they don't always agree, and it's just,
It
oh
can be
God, what a way to
gross.
go. That's chaos rather
And it
than
is
in
hassling.
peace and the way that you have earned the respect to go for your life,
Well,
right?
failures aren't necessarily failures. I think we have to take that. It's just that trials. They're not failures, they're trials. They might not work. But the
Oh,
thing is that it
yeah.
always
Your
adds
lessons.
research for yourself to keep going forward or
Yeah.
find a
There are,
different avenue to you have to change your veer in the road.
I, I don't know that there are failures. I know
Exactly.
there's
They're
things that don't work
learning.
out the way that you wanted, but always when you get it enough time, you see why it had to happen, like
You
that's the
reflect on it.
lessons.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, not all of us, some of us really don't like doing that inner work and being accountable and owning
It's
all the shit that
hard work when you
happens.
get it on yourself.
But I have to say, like, I really and even with my parents, right? Like even with my family and how I grew up, part of my healing is realizing that sometimes the universe needs to use people in order to move you.
So learn your lessons.
And so while I don't have active relationships with my family, I appreciate who they were to me for
Well,
who I've
where you
become.
came, where you came to where
Yeah.
you are. You have to accept all of it
Yeah. Right, right. Yeah.
because that's
And
all that
and
makes
it's
up
funny
you.
because I don't have any hatred for them. I don't have any anger towards them. I see them as the broken people that they were, and I do believe that people with trauma go around kind of like with horse blinders on. This is
They
all we
don't.
see. So
They
it's
don't see the
easy to
destruction
judge
they're
from the
causing either. Yeah.
outside, like, oh, I see all the forest. Why didn't you just go down that path? Well, they didn't see that, right? Like that wasn't. And look, for years, I looked, even before cannabis changed my life directly, I wondered if cannabis would have helped them slow down and stop. But no, again, we live in the society where that was denied us for so long, right? And people are just trauma ridden and reacting to things, not really stopping and thinking.
And moving forward to understand what processing they have to.
Right.
We're not all built the same way because not everybody knows how to put it all together to keep using it. I mean, a
We've
VCR, you
all
got
had
a manual.
different life
We're all different.
experiences.
Exactly. Experiences.
It's all very
Yeah.
different. And
Yeah.
so it's hard to be able to judge another person's shoes. I really try to get, like I had to learn to give myself grace. I think that was one of the biggest things cannabis taught me
And
was like,
celebrate your triumphants along the way.
well, it was that, and then it was also the fact that I came to cannabis as medicine around when my daughter was about 12.
Well,
So I
strictly, I
think
think that's what
also
it is. It is
watching
medicine. It shouldn't
her,
be looked at as any other way.
right, yeah. So but watching her grow and go through those ages at the same time the cannabis was helping me slow down is what learned to give myself grace and also credit. and realize how resourceful I am and how many things I've learned and what I've gotten through so far. And once I feel like that you've learned, oh, I got through all that shit, I can go through anything. You almost see yourself as a little bulletproof. And so then you dare to try more. And then you're like, oh, well, if I did that without even knowing I had any control, and that's just what the outcome was. What happens when now I have an idea what I'm doing? I know the things I want to try. What happens if I do things intentionally? What happens if I live my life with intention rather than as a reaction? And so that's what became the shift. And cannabis helped me with that. And then that's when it gave me the strength to be like, I'm just going to quit my job and my life and my career and walk away from the checks and all the things and see what happens, because I'm being called to more important work.
Elevated to another level.
And I have to do that. Like, that's in me. It's in me to be of service in this world.
So what was your biggest obstacle or darkest time in your life besides your childhood? Where's that start?
You know, I've had other difficult times. No, of course I've had other difficult times. You know, my childhood catching up to me in my 30s was a very difficult time because I didn't even know it, right? But then I would say, you know, learning to be a public figure has not been easy because I did have social anxiety. Now doing this all of a sudden is fucking weird. I don't love being on camera. I don't love having all my pictures taken. But it's a part of the work. Like that's the part of like, you got to show up every day, right? Like this is my showing up. Well, I just am. I'm just me. I'm me regardless. That is one thing that I do not claim to be perfect. Don't put me on a pedestal. Yeah, I'm not, perfect. It's not Canna Boss Babes. It's not like I'm the boss and you're not. No, it's me helping support, lift up other Canna Boss Babes.
How to be their own boss.
Exactly. And so I, you know, like, I'm here to serve. And sometime, and it happened so quickly. I wasn't always aware of what I was creating and what the perception of it is on the outside to everybody. And I wasn't aware that there were like people that really are okay using other people. And so a couple years ago, I ended up finding myself in a very public relationship. And that was false. And so that was difficult because I had to learn how to not just deal with that as a thing that happened to me, but as a public thing that was public. I'd say that was pretty dark.
So basically, how did you overcome it? And Shane, how did it change you? Obviously that's
I shared my truth. I shared my truth. I shared everything that was going on. I shared everything that was feeling. I did not give a fuck because I am not going to let it change me.
Didn't you feel like you just?
I had a lot of people who made whatever decisions they did to either follow me or unfollow me based on that and what their way they wanted. That was the content they wanted from me or not. But you know, it taught me to double down on what I know is right. It taught me to double down on trusting my intuition, that when my intuition has a red flag and says, nope, that instead of sitting there and trying to rationalize and have empathy and understanding for that person, I fucking cut ties and like hit it. And to really trust my intuition on that it doesn't need to make sense, that I don't need to justify it, that if my intuition says, fuck that person. And I can do it with grace without saying fuck you, but I will absolutely cut and run now without having to question it because my intuition is always right. I learned that lesson again in Vegas, not with a lover, but with people I thought friends. Again at MJ BizCon, it was a great, successful, wonderful week for me professionally and personally. You had a sweet. I did. It was amazing. We had a lot going on, and I was a part of a lot of different events and I did different interviews and at the conference and was running a content room for MJ BizCon, which was amazing. But I was personally actually getting scammed. So,
Oh
oh
no, I'm so
yeah,
sorry.
and bringing my friends into it without being aware of it. So after that, I did spend 4 weeks where I was not able to go outside my front door even to take out the trash. So the social anxiety came back. So it's very much a managed thing. It's not a gone thing, you know.
So basically, what is your advice to other people going through similar experiences?
I think
Are you starting a tribe? Do you want to put it out there that you're there to help people, but you're with the hand up, not the hand out?
yeah, I mean, for sure. But I've also, that looks like, so for me, the hardest thing to reconcile and why I struggled for so long was because I was like, but I'm a platform that supports other women and believes in women supporting women and men too, right? But it was women that did that. And so that was hard for me. And that they were in other women supporting women platforms. So then it just became like, well, are they actually predatory? And then it's hard to say. And so I had to really reconcile, how do I continue being the Canna Boss Babes?
Sometimes it's hard. You just have to brush it off and say, it wasn't me, but I recognize this. I'm just going to go this way. It's not my job to stop them to say what they're doing is wrong because they have to figure it out unless there's enough people to say something,
The
right?
lesson
So
for me
you
was
can't
to
really
pay
do it.
closer attention to what people do and not what they say. The lesson was
Actions speak louder than
to
words.
slow down and actually see, are they of their word or just talking? Um,
And my word means more than money.
yeah,
That's something you can't put a
yeah, right.
price on.
And also, sometimes it's not even intentional. Sometimes
We're all learning.
people will put hurdles in their own way when they're just not ready and they don't know how to simply
They
just
set
admit they're
themselves up
not
for
ready.
fail.
or or sometimes people don't understand that hurdles are part of the road to success, right? And so, like, it's not easy being an entrepreneur. We choose our hard, but we choose our hard every day.
Yeah.
So, some people just choose the hard they know rather than the hard they don't, right? So,
Yes. Well, I would like to say, so what is there anything that you would like to say to viewers, to the Rodeo Pinky posse, Powerhouse posse, to like uh, don't let anybody stand in your way. What would you like to leave,
I
to
mean, look, the biggest lesson that I learned was to simply say thank you for revealing yourself. And so I think that's the thing, is to not get upset and like fight and argue, but that when someone shows themselves to you, thank them, take that lesson and move forward as you need to, right?
yes,
Like whatever your dream is, if it's not with those people, it's because the universe is making space for others that are more aligned. And so to just keep trusting what you're doing, don't give up because people around you don't understand. I mean, nobody understood me leaving my job and my career when I entered the cannabis, and then I started advocating for cannabis. Like, I still have people that are like, who the fuck is she? Like
I'm
I,
proud to know you. Thank you so much.
thank you. I am too. I actually, that's one of the things. I love who the people in my life are. I really, old and new, very grateful. I feel blessed to find myself, on the Green State Cannabis Choice Consumers Choice Awards with Beard Bros and Sarah Pyan, and like, and then to get, to have people like that also be my friends, um is really an honor and makes me feel very rich in my life. So everything's worth it. It's hard. There are times it's going to be really hard. I feel like what I've always said though is it's like life is like Mario Brothers, and in a couple ways. One is that there's always a bad guy before you level up. Sometimes you beat the bad
That's
guy in three
totally true.
minutes.
I
Sometimes it's
love
three
that.
days. So, sometimes it's going to be really hard, but the harder it is, just keep going, sustain, make sure you're not contributing to the hard.
Always got to recharge
And
yourself though, because sometimes we give so much And then we were clear that if you
Yeah.
don't give to yourself, then you're not. What are you giving to your
For
constituents?
sure, for sure. But like, like you will get through the hard. This too shall pass. And just so always knowing that, and that when
Breathe.
it does, it's a level up. Life is testing you. Are you ready for the next challenge? And so just get through it and you will. And if you need help, then Canna Boss Babes and Pinky's Powerhouse is always here to help, right?
I wanted to say thank you for listening and joining us, Miss Ishqa from Canna Boss Babes. And I'm so grateful. I just want to give you some applause. They're working on this. Thank you so much, guys. You rock and sock. Okay, I just want to say for our next episode, our next guest is going to be Pamela Gort. She's also a podcaster, and she does the Lesbian Love podcast, and she also does Bling Z jewelry. We hope that you walk away inspired to create the difference you want to see in the world. Remember to share the love, see one, do one, teach one, lead one. You are not alone. Pinky's Powerhouse Posse grows with every new listener. Follow us on Instagram and YouTube. Subscribe. Where do you want to go next, Ishka? Where do you want to see yourself next?
Oh, well, I'm being called back to the East Coast, so it looks like I'll be doing a few things out there.
Yes. All right. I want to thank you so very much. You rock and sock and keep
Thank
touching
you.
great things. And I look forward to seeing you again. Bless you. Have a beautiful, you rock.
You too.
All right. It's safe.